Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. Make sure, if you're a YouTube user, you click the bell to enable notifications so they let you know every time a new episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast goes up live. We are sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 every year for the latest and greatest wrestling video game. I do it every year. I'm done with it. Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available through Facebook, totally free. Create your wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation from the ground up, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users. As I said, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shoutouts like my good buddy Mike in Lansdale, then make sure you check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. Don't forget loyalty rewards. $15 a month contributors, you get to co-host an episode with me. If you're a $7.50 a month contributor, you can get entered into a drawing to also co-host an episode with me. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. We'll take questions, comments, anything you want to talk about. Enable whatever chat feature you use and whatever streaming service you use, and give us your questions and comments while we're on the air live, and we'll get to them right away. They pop onto our little chat button here, and I see we already have my good buddy John the Sports Guy tuning in from Marfa, Texas tonight. How you doing, John? Great to see you. Always love having you on the show. And this week has been a crazy week in pro wrestling. I'm sure John tuned in. Let's hope all of you did as well. If you're new to the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line is available. It's up for people who want to call in with questions, but they don't want to be on the air live. That's cool too. Send us a text message, 267-642-1160. We'll get to your questions in a future episode. Don't forget, head over to the Pro Wrestling Podcast homepage at frowrestling.com, where you can preview all the topics coming to the show. You can check out our blog, In Fro's Corner, where you got all sorts of our editorial pieces. There's a link there for independent wrestling dates all over the country. Hopefully something great coming to an area near you. Get that real one-to-one experience with the people in all different sections of the country. Get up close and personal with the wrestlers. It's totally different than the WWE experience. And we're heading into All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing weekend. It is an exciting time. I know I had 6 tickets to the show. They are gone. They are sold. And I hope everybody else who has an opportunity to go really enjoys the experience. It should be amazing. That being said, we have conversation about that tonight, as well as many other things. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Money in the Bank's reaction to everything that happened. I think it's my duty to say that I support the masses of people who are very frustrated with Brock Lesnar winning Money in the Bank. Now, here's the thing. I have no problem with star power. Here's the real reality of it. I have no problem with him challenging Seth Rollins for a match at the new Superstar Showdown. I have no problem with that, with the Super Showdown. The problem is this. WWE management has a really tough time with making sense. Why did they give Brock Lesnar the Money in the Bank briefcase? He lost the Universal Championship at WrestleMania to Seth Rollins. That means he has a rematch clause. It's in every championship storyline going back for 30 years. So why does he need a briefcase? What they miss here in their booking decision here is that the Money in the Bank briefcase has always done something very important. It is a catapult for an underappreciated talent to really push them up to the next pantheon of wrestlers. You could have given that briefcase to Andrade, which was rumored to happen beforehand. You could have given it to Drew McIntyre, who I predicted was going to win because I didn't think he needed it. I think he can get over without it. But if anybody can get over without it, it's Brock Lesnar, since he had a return match clause. You didn't need to give him that. He should have come down. If you wanted him to be involved, have him jump Seth Rollins after he retained the championship against AJ Styles and enact his rematch clause at the pay-per-view. Look, this isn't one of those Money in the Bank cash-ins where, like, Seth Rollins is going to wrestle somebody, be beaten down and in some inferior form, and Brock's going to show up and cash in. He's going to come out next Monday on Raw. He's going to announce that he's cashing in against Seth Rollins at Super Showdown, which is ridiculous. No need for that. That defeats the purpose of the Money in the Bank gimmick. The whole point of the gimmick is you got to be strategic and pick your spot and pick your time and when is the champion right for the fall. And this takes all that away. I understand sometimes like Braun Strowman last year doing it the way he did it because he was a monster heel, and it would have made him actually look weaker to win a championship going against a weakened opponent, which he ended up not winning anyways. But the reality of the situation is that Brock Lesnar had a built-in championship match. You needed nothing to do with the Money in the Bank. This could have been great for Ali. This could have been great for Drew McIntyre, Andrade, Finn Balor, pretty much anybody left in the match. And I think I've seen the memes all over the internet. I couldn't agree more with Randy Orton's reaction when he sees Brock Lesnar sitting at the top of the ladder. And Lesnar, the pompous, arrogant guy that he is, taunting the other wrestlers from sitting atop the ladder with the briefcase in his hand. And the reality is that Brock Lesnar, this is going to create, and I saw a great thing Taz on his podcast talking about how this is going to create backstage heat. These guys went out there and they tore it down, and it was actually a very entertaining ladder match. It wasn't quite as content-filled as I would have liked, but it was still a great ladder match. And you do all this. You work all year long. You get to, this is one of those shows, it's almost like the Royal Rumble. You get to the show, there's a special gimmick, and everybody looks forward to it. And then to have it stolen from you in the manner in which it was seems so anticlimactic. Why did we wait all year for Money in the Bank if he was just going to come out and challenge Seth Rollins? Seth Rollins has been beating the drum about being a fighting champion. You could have easily played the card of Brock wants a rematch and Seth Rollins steps up and says, let's do it. He did that this past week on Raw. He came out and said, let's do it right now. You know what I mean? So there's no mystique about Money in the Bank. It wasn't necessary. And you took an opportunity away from your other talents. You need to start building some stars. Because let's face it, when you had Hulk Hogan, you knew who the man was. You had Stone Cold, you knew who the man was. John Cena, you knew who the man was. Who's the man in the company right now? Is it Seth Rollins? Is it AJ Styles? Is it Daniel Bryan? Is it Kofi Kingston? Is it Roman Reigns? Is it a whole bunch of people? Braun Strowman? Who is it that is the face of the company? The reality is they don't have one. They don't have a face of the company right now. So they're relying on these various personalities to get the brand over. And let's face it, Fox wants big ratings. That's why they were willing to pay what they were willing to pay to get their programming on television. But the reality is that's not going to last forever. They have to do something more drastic to increase ratings, and they're not doing it. Now, Brock Lesnar was supposed to go to UFC. He was supposed to challenge for the UFC Heavyweight Championship against Daniel Cormier. That match is off. I think Dana White figured out that Brock keeps playing the two companies against each other, and he's done. I see John the Sports Guy threw it out there. He's like, isn't he supposed to be going to UFC? He was. He was supposed to be the challenger for Cormier, and unfortunately, that match is off. Cormier is going to fight Stipe Miocic again in a rematch from last year, and we're not going to get to see the Brock Lesnar fight. We may never get to see Brock in UFC again, which may be why we're seeing him so much more on WWE television. Let's face it, he's at Money in the Bank. He's at the night after. He'll be there next week. He's going to be at the Go Home episode. He'll be at the Saudi Arabian show. So he's going to have all these appearances. In the past, he was making like buku dollars every time he showed up. I think this time, age has set in a little bit with Brock when it comes to the MMA training. And I think at this point in his career, he wants to slow things down, pick and choose his opportunities, and create a contract that is financially responsible for him, but also helps WWE get the big match feel. And I get it. When he came out on Raw, he actually got a pretty solid response. You know, the numbers for Raw, this was one of the highest rated weeks of Raw all year. So Vince McMahon and his ego, he's looking at, I've seen all those memes too, pictures of Vince with Becky Lynch looking at Brock Lesnar holding the Money in the Bank briefcase saying, look at the Raw ratings, how great they are. You know, I'm not going to attribute all that to Brock. I'm going to attribute it to the day after an incredible pay-per-view. Let's talk about some of the other Money in the Bank stuff. Becky Lynch losing one of the championships, we knew that had to happen. I don't like the fact that Charlotte beat her first, but I understand it. If Becky Lynch can go through Lacey Evans and Charlotte in the same night, then who the heck is going to ever challenge her for either belt? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. She's been taken to the limit by Charlotte in the past, so she got softened up by Lacey Evans. She loses a close match to Charlotte. I love the cash in by Bayley. I think it's fair that Bayley get another shot to be the top star and the top draw in the women's division. She did so much in NXT. She came in with so much like just natural, aggressive, and organic popularity with the fans when she came to the main roster. She won the Raw Women's Championship, and then she just fizzled. And now maybe this will let them refocus on her a little bit and get her into a prime position to really help continue the growth of the women's division. Now, I'm a little disappointed that the Iconics haven't been on TV whatsoever lately, defending their tag team championship. That needs to be featured more. I absolutely, I'm so frustrated with the 24/7 title. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here. If you're tuning into this podcast, I know you guys are livid with that announcement as well. Now, what really bothers me is if you tune into this podcast, and if you're a longtime listener, you may remember about a year ago, about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, I told everybody on this show that what they needed to create was a Legends Championship, an opportunity for a guy to come back to the company to perform against another major star and have a championship for people like The Undertaker, Goldberg. And don't you know, we have a match coming up with The Undertaker and Goldberg at the Saudi Arabia show. If they debuted a Legends Championship this past night on Raw, then you would have had an opportunity to have those two face off to be the inaugural Legends champion. And then you could have had that as a championship. It didn't have to be defended so regularly, but you have an opportunity to bring somebody in like a Sting, a Kurt Angle, people like that who really are at legendary status, who've either left the business or appear very sporadically, and have their matches mean more than just another match on the card. That would have been okay with me, and that's what I've been endorsing for over a year now. Then we find out that, well, a lot of people think it might be the hardcore title again. Al Snow was out there telling how much he was hoping that wouldn't be the case. That was a championship for the right time and the right place and the temperament of the business. Well, we're not in the hardcore era anymore. That's really what this is. It's a rebirth of the hardcore title. And so, you know, I understand. And here's the thing. I'm not going to totally dump on it because it does create an opportunity for the undercard guys to have something to be on television about. I just hate that it's going to be booked so comically and so comedically. It's stupid. Make it serious. If it's a legitimate title, make it legitimate. You know, I have no problem with the title changing hands 3 times or 2 times, whatever you want to call it, on Monday night. I have no problem with that. But don't make the title changes so completely ridiculous. Hiding a referee in a limousine so that you can attack Bobby Roode when he gets out of the limo. Like, what? I actually love that they gave the belt to Titus O'Neil, but I knew he'd only have it for a few minutes. I didn't expect it to be a few seconds, but I thought it would only be a few minutes, because then why have the title if somebody didn't take it from him right away? Titus O'Neil deserves a legitimate championship run with some belt for everything he does for that company and for the ambassador that he is for the wrestling industry. I'd have let him be the guy who walked away with the belt at the end of the night, not the guy who won it first. I would have had him win it last. Let him do the R-Truth thing. I love the memes with R-Truth talking about his European Continental Championship and all that nonsense. I love that. That's funny. But in the end, the belt is ugly. The belt is boring. The belt is old news. And it's not something we needed right now. But let's face it, we'll get to see more of some of the guys that you and I both are frustrated we never get to see on television. I just wish their matches weren't going to be these 30-second surprise attacks and a title change. I think that's just worthless. It's wasted time. Superstars turning down a Super Showdown appearance. Aleister Black, Kevin Owens, Daniel Bryan, and Sami Zayn all off the show. That is the reason that Dolph Ziggler was brought back to attack Kofi Kingston on Smackdown, is because Kevin Owens was penciled in to face Kofi Kingston, and unfortunately, Kevin Owens has decided he's not going. Now, he is very close with Sami Zayn. I'm not surprised, but at the end of the day, that's 4 premier names not going to a show that you're being paid a whole lot of money for, you know? And, you know, I think that WWE has to understand this is not going to be a once and done deal. People are going to reject going forward if things don't change politically in that country, and then that just hurts the product, because you got to come up with what is Dolph Ziggler's been off TV since January when he was at the Royal Rumble. He's going to come in, he's going to do a one-off, he's going to lose to Kofi Kingston, and his return was pointless. You wasted a big return. This is something Chris Jericho used to complain about. It's why he didn't come back to WWE again last year, was because he didn't want to waste his returns. You know, you can only get that same pop so many times. Why waste Dolph Ziggler on this? I thought this was a horrible idea. And I think it's only in reaction to the people like Aleister. Now, Aleister Black not going, you know, I don't know that anybody would have really noticed him not being there. He probably would have been in the 50-man Battle Royal anyways, which, by the way, I think that's insane, too. I like the Greatest Royal Rumble concept better. Daniel Bryan not going, you had to expect. Sami Zayn not going is a religious thing. He's Syrian, and there's some international issues there and some religious issues there, so I'm not surprised that he's not going. But Aleister Black and Kevin Owens, those are two big names, and you would think that they'd want to be a part of that. But I respect their decision. I really do. I think it was horrible, all the bad publicity that they got last year over Crown Jewel, so this is just a natural progression. John the Sports Guy saying, do you think WWE is trying to have a little bit of the Attitude Era back on television? I think they have to, and we're actually going to get to that now because WWE has announced that there's going to be some changes to Raw. So the third hour is supposed to get a little more edgy, a little more serious. And I'm okay with that because that's what it was when it was the biggest, most successful wrestling company in the industry. And that's what I think they're trying to do. Yeah, it's kind of bringing the Attitude Era back a little bit. I don't think you could ever recapture that because, let's be honest, think about the roster during the Attitude Era. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, The Rock, Triple H, you had the Hardys, the Edge and Christian, the Dudleys. Like, you were so stacked in your roster. Now, don't get me wrong. They've got a great roster right now. They really, really do. I just don't think they know how to book people now versus back then. WWE was hitting on all cylinders during the Monday Night Wars. Like, everything they touched turned to gold. Now, it doesn't matter what they do, people crap on it. You know what I mean? I don't know that the belt itself, John just said, what about is that what the 24/7 belt is? It's really, I don't think that's what it is. I think they're trying with the edgy production in hour 3. If anybody didn't notice, go back and look at Raw this week. The third hour was designed to be more edgy and more I don't say TV 14 kind of, but that's kind of where we're going. All Elite Wrestling announcing this week that they're going TV 14, which I think is a good thing. It makes it so they can do some more heavy stuff and more adult related stuff. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but you got to be able to drop some foul language. You're getting ready to beat the snot out of each other, and these guys act like, you wuss, I'll beat you up. And you can't do that. You got to be like tough and gruff, and sometimes you got to swear to sell it. WWE, you can't do that as often. If you're The Rock, you can, but most people can't do that. Hopefully All Elite Wrestling will get that straight. Speaking of All Elite Wrestling, we found out this week that the Hangman Page versus Pac match was totally pulled from Double or Nothing. If you haven't yet, get on their YouTube channel and watch the match between Hangman Page and Pac, released this past week. They had their match over in the United Kingdom. It was an incredible match. Now, I expected that to begin with. It's all the more reason why Pac backing out is so frustrating, is because he really can put it on when he needs to with almost anybody. Hangman Page doesn't have an established name enough for Pac to feel comfortable having that match. And what I'm understanding is it has nothing to do with Adam Page. It has to do with this was a setup match for Pac to then wrestle Kenny Omega for the AEW championship. And in that match, Omega would go over, and Pac did not want to lose. It's not about Hangman Page. It's about the match itself with Hangman Page was the setup for Kenny Omega to face Pac for the championship. Now, I know Pac puts on an incredible match. He's one of the best pound-for-pound wrestlers in the world. That doesn't make him a world heavyweight champion. Okay, it just doesn't. Yes, I love his work, and I'm thrilled that he stood up to WWE, and I'm happy that he's successful now. And I love his code of honor with Dragon Gate. I think that's something this business sorely misses from the territorial days. But you don't agree to a program with somebody and then get angry about the creative process. Or, in All Elite side, you don't start the process without knowing what the end result's going to be and presenting the ending first. You go to the talent here. This is what we have in mind. This is what we want to do. Here's the long-term planning. Are you on board? If they say no, then walk away. Do something else. Or if you're going to sign them, put them in an inconsequential match just to get the pop in ratings because they're appearing on your show. Now, I expect that we may see Dean Ambrose or CM Punk replace him. Some other people say Joey Ryan. Replace him at Double or Nothing, but we don't know. We're not sure because something like that, they're not going to announce ahead of time. Whatever the case may be, whoever he faces, I'm fairly confident he loses whatever match that is, and a more established and big name will be the one who goes over Hangman Page. But he'll get benefit from the rub with whoever he gets in the ring with, and hopefully the show still goes off without a hitch. Now, they have announced how they're going to crown the first All Elite Wrestling champion. That's the headline story for this episode. And the story goes, the winner of the Casino Battle Royal is going to face the winner of Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho in the match to determine the first champion. Now, we don't know yet where that match will take place. It could be the July show that they've been promoting. Could be further down the road. Could be the debut episode of their show in October. But whatever it is, that's apparently going to be how they crown their first champion. What I think they really need to focus on is creating their tag team championships and a tertiary title, because they do have a deep roster. They got 50 people on the roster. You can have a main championship, a secondary title, and a tag title. You really can, and you should. Using the AAA Tag Team Championship at Double or Nothing makes a lot of sense, but they should have created their own as well and put that on the line. If they're not, then we need to know what they're going to do with that. But I'm glad to see that we got some clarity about how they're going to crown their first champion. I hope this show is amazing. I really do. It's going to be a stacked card. We found out this week Ty Dillinger will be there. He has signed with them. Sean Spears is what he's going by now. He'll be in the Battle Royal. I don't see him winning the Battle Royal. I don't think he's established enough to be believable to give Kenny or Jericho a run for their money for the championship. And when you look at the roster of who's going to be competing in the Battle Royal, I'm not sure who that person is. Could it be Joey Janela? Well, maybe. But I don't know if he's over enough to be challenging, say, Kenny Omega or to be challenging Chris Jericho for the All Elite Wrestling World Championship. I kind of felt like, and follow me on this, how awesome would it have been had they not done the thing with the Battle Royal? Instead, the winner of Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho takes on the winner of Cody versus Dustin, and the winner gets the AEW championship. And I would have put the championship on Dustin. Give him a world championship win for the first time in his career. It would have been the most beautiful way to start the lineage of your championship. That's what I would have done. I know I'm fantasy booking, and that's what we do as hardcore wrestling fans. We fantasy book all the time. I think that would have been a good thing for the start of their business. Not because Dustin is a world championship contender at this stage of his career, and he may not even have wanted that, but because it would have been the right thing for the legacy of the Rhodes family, and for the way to start the legacy of a new championship by giving it a time-honored, family, customary championship win. Cody did it last year, winning the NWA championship from Nick Aldis. This could have been Dustin's way to win a championship. I think they missed an opportunity with this, and I'm hoping Dustin sticks around for more than just this one match. How long does AJ Styles have left in the wrestling business? That's a hot button topic this week as well. He has made it clear that he has signed his last wrestling contract. It was a 5-year deal he signed earlier this year. So in 5 years, we're done with AJ Styles. Now, as a huge AJ Styles fan, I never want to see the guy stop wrestling. But let's be honest, he is in his mid-40s. He's been doing this a very long time. He has always done it at the top of the food chain. An incredible superstar. And let's face it, he wants to spend some time with the wife and kids. He's got a little bit lighter schedule now. He's missed some house shows here and there on purpose. Part of his scheduling, his creative scheduling. And now we know that he has got an exit plan. 5 years from now, he'll be walking away from the business. And you know what? Congratulations to him if that's the case and if he decides to do that. Maybe one day WWE will smarten up and they'll create that Legends Championship, and every once in a while we can see him return for another match. That's what I got to keep hoping for. Some details have emerged in the tragic loss of Ashley Massaro. Unfortunately, young lady passed away from a suicide. She was found hanging in her apartment. Very sad stuff. There is a GoFundMe set up for her daughter's education. I encourage anyone who is able and willing to please support that cause. What a terrible situation for her child to be going through. And what a sad situation for Ashley Massaro. WWE, there was a statement put out because there was an affidavit released relating to some claims that Ashley Massaro made about her time in WWE 2007 when they were overseas. Some horrible adult graphic comments were made, and she apparently sent an email to WWE, which they released, showing how she apologized for all this stuff and how, you know, she never should have been involved in this lawsuit against them for concussion syndromes and all this, and how she was kind of swindled into it by a lawyer who's been cited several times for following false evidence and all this other stuff. So just sad stuff surrounding this whole situation. And, you know, we wish nothing but peace of mind, rest, and relaxation for her family, her daughter. But this, just sad. Absolutely sad. AJ Styles, I forgot this on that topic. His next feud looks like he's going to be feuding with Baron Corbin. If you catch those WWE.com exclusives, Baron Corbin slapping him in the face after Raw, Look, I'm not thrilled about any feud that involves Baron Corbin. Not in the way he's being presented right now. But let's be honest, it's a fresh matchup for AJ. They haven't been in the ring in quite some time, and it gives the fans something to think about. I think it's kind of like a placeholder for AJ Styles because he just had his Universal Championship match. He can't go right back for it again. Now, maybe he wins the Royal Rumble or some other qualifying method next year and gets a chance at WrestleMania. But I think you have to keep him away from the championship picture for a little while. Baron Corbin is somebody you could put him against for maybe 2-3 months. Hopefully not longer than that because Corbin gets boring to watch. But it gives him something to do right now. I'm really hoping that we get to see some new fresh matchups like AJ Styles and Rey Mysterio. Like, how many people would love to see that on a Monday Night Raw or a pay-per-view show? There's so much opportunity there on Raw. AJ Styles and taking on somebody like Drew McIntyre, who I think would be incredible in the ring with him. AJ Styles and Braun Strowman, which would be very different and unique. He's got so many possibilities that don't involve the Universal Championship, and I think that's what they need to focus on. But unfortunately, it looks like Baron Corbin's going to be the first one in line. Not real thrilled about it, but we'll make it work. We reported last episode Jordynne Grace over in Impact Wrestling was not under contract. Apparently, she is now a 2-year deal. He'll keep her with Impact Wrestling for the foreseeable future. They got the contract details ironed out. She chose not to go anywhere else. Kudos to her. I think all the talent that Impact Wrestling has signed over the last few months has really helped to give them some legitimacy, some long-term planability. Let's face it, if you're churning over talent on a regular basis, it's really tough to make long-term plans. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thrilled that they're locking down some of their key components so that that's not an issue going forward. Hopefully they can iron out details with other people like Eli Drake, who they have issues with right now, and some other talents. But we'll have to wait and see. It'll be interesting to see what happens with future signings, but at least Jordynne Grace is now under contract. I know Scarlett Bordeaux's still hoping to get out of her contract. She's signed through like 2024. So I don't know how she's going to get out of her deal. I hope if they grant it to her, great. I don't know why they would. She's one of their biggest attractions right now. I would keep her stuck in that contract as long as you possibly can. You don't sign a contract if you're not going to live up to the contract. That's just my opinion. But, and Killer Cross, same thing, but we'll have to wait and see. But at least one of them is wrapped up. Impact Wrestling, speaking of TV woes, like last week, we didn't even get to see the main event. It went off the air early. It went to commercial, never came back. The Pursuit channel has been in like a frenzy all week over this. They don't give this show the respect it deserves. It's almost like the same way ECW was featured on the Nashville Network back in the day, TNN. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't promote the show properly. They don't give it enough time. They cut the show off early for commercials. All this stuff, Impact Wrestling's trying to grow a brand. I know they're hoping they get a better TV deal come the fall. I hope they get something better. I'd like to have a better exposure to seeing their product again. And let's face it, their wrestling action has been incredible lately. Like, their talent pool is actually pretty deep. So I'd like to see them do something more substantial, and hopefully a network somewhere will give them that chance. Wrestling's booming again right now. When you've got WWE and All Elite Wrestling and Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling and Impact Wrestling and Lucha Underground, and all these shows tending to be the highest draws on their respective channels. Let's face it, Raw is one of the biggest, highest rated shows on USA. You know what I'm saying? And Ring of Honor, one of the highest rated shows on their channel. New Japan gets great viewership. Lucha Underground, #1 show on El Rey, even though they don't seem to be bringing it back. So hopefully Impact Wrestling can find a home where they appreciate the product and help support the product so it can grow. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next time. We'll run down the wrestling news and rumors of the day. Special thanks, as always, go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects we use in our shows. Today's podcast sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bring a new friend to family game night. It's easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game by Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen to pick up your copy today. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you so much for taking a few moments with us today. If you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.tsj101sports.com for their latest articles on the world of wrestling. Check my blog, Infro's Corner, at frowrestling.com for other editorial pieces. Don't forget to support indie wrestling. Go to our indie wrestling events tab. You'll see shows coming to an area near you. Support our sponsors. Check out our interview series at the bottom of frowrestling.com. Join Patreon, sign up, get your name in the shoutouts like Mike and Lansdale. Do that. Enable notifications. Make sure you're online every time one of our shows goes live. Until next time, everybody, take care, have a great night. And this week, we're looking at All Elite Wrestling, Double or Nothing. Prediction episode on the way later in the week. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.